Welcome back to Broken Electronics. I'm Lee, and it's very good to be with you again. Today I'm going to upgrade a computer. Specifically, my single CPU 2010 Mac Pro 5.1. I recently did an upgrade on that, you may have seen the video, where I upgraded that CPU through the simple expedient of removing the CPU tray and putting another one that I already had upgraded to 3.46 gigahertz 6-core Westmere, and it made a substantial difference. Now, I wasn't going to do any more with it, but I've been trying to straighten up the house some, computer parts, cables, tools all over the place, and I thought maybe it would be nice to be able to find something when I really need it. I found this envelope. In the envelope I found a PCIe card, which is actually an adapter for an NVMe SSD. It slots in there, you screw it in, comes the heat sink, you put that on there, there are rubber bands that go on it, and then you secure it better with the use of two metal clips that come with it. But I didn't have an SSD. So of course I had to buy one. This is a 500 gigabyte Western Digital Blue. And the plan is to put it into the computer, use that as the boot disk, and achieve better speeds. Now, there's a flaw in the plan. Right now the machine is running High Sierra. I will need to upgrade it to Mojave, at which point there will be a firmware flash, which will enable it to boot from that NVMe drive. As it is, it won't do it. Well, but I can't do that because I don't have a metal supported graphics card. Well, sure enough, also in the closet, I've got this Radeon 580, which is metal supported. Now, if it's just lying in there, might as well put it to use too. But it does require an 8-pin power connection. Not to worry. I also have, still around, an 8-pin to dual 6-pin cord and two adapters to adapt the regular 6 pins to the mini 6 pins that will go into the Mac Pro. Now, with all of this planned, I figured I would top it off with this from Initech. I've used these before in my two dual CPU Mac Pros. This is a PCIe card that will add 4 USB 3 ports. And, if you attach that there. You can give you a screwdriver to do that, and screws, fortunately. Now, I've used these before. I like them. One of the nice things about them is that they do not require power. They're bus power. Now, there is a problem with that. Using bus power, you can plug into each one of these. As long as those devices do not require power, you're fine. If they require power, you could put like one external SSD or hard drive in and it will be fine. Try to add another, things are going to slow down dramatically. I've seen this happen. Now, the way around that is to plug one of those use a powered USB hub. Now, whether I get that far, I don't know. I'm really just putting this in. These are not expensive. I think they're about 25 bucks. And it should do the trick. So, having put in the Radeon 580, I also might as well just go ahead and actually upgrade the machine to Mojave. So I think this should be interesting, and I hope you will find it interesting. If you do, please stay tuned. Well, in this, the actual upgrading part is probably the simplest thing of the entire process. It's the joy of these machines. That's why people love them so much. They are intended to be upgraded, unlike the majority of Apple products today. Just to get a look here, this is the NVMe SSD assembled. Note the clips on the heatsink. And with the faceplate on the USB 3 Inotech. Now, I'd already loosened these screws, of course. We need to get the old graphics card out. I'm going to unplug it. You get a button right here. You move the fan assembly out of the way. And you simply pull out the old graphics card. Now, I'm going to take a moment here. There we go. It's a little bit of a pain to get these many 6 pins in, but way easier than on the 1, 1, 2, 1, and 3, 1. Alright. And now, our new graphics card. Slot it into place. Oh, no, I didn't quite slot it into place. Get out of the way. Alright. That's in there. That is in there. Okay. Put this back in. All right. Now, what I actually intend to do, well, maybe I'll take that back out, is put the USB 3. In the slot. I do want to get this to come out. Oh, I see what's holding it. It's the graphics card. Yeah. So I actually want to put this right above the graphics card. That should do it. Yep, there we go. Okay, that's slotted in. All right, we're good. And then, above that, I'm going to replace the slot cover. This is a slot cover that came off of a G4 MDD. And it fits in there very well. Those are provided with those holes. The reason I'm doing that is to provide a little additional cooling for the SSD. And that's in place. Make sure everything's seated. All right. And then, now this becomes a bit of a pain. It's a little hard to get at the bottom screw because of the height of the graphics card. So basically, I think you've seen enough here. I'm going to end this clip and we'll be back onto the desktop and see what comes from here. This is going to be easy to do. Stay tuned. All right, we've booted up, and incidentally, no, the graphics card is not Mac Flash, so there was no boot screen. And of course, we are greeted right off the bat by this. The disk you inserted was not readable by this computer, which is exactly what we expected. And they do show as external disks. So we're going to click on that and we are going to partition it. I'm going to call this go to APFS. This will eventually be our boot drive, and we'll click erase. All right, and our disk shows up. It's always seemed humorous to me that these PCIe drives are recognized as being external by the system. In point of fact, the established hard drive in there is probably more easily removable than the PCIe. All right, let's take that quick obligatory look at about this Mac. We still have our processor, and here we see Radeon RX 580 with 8 gig of virtual RAM. I mean video RAM. Okay, this is all good. Now, our eventual goal will be to have our new SSD as our boot drive. However, we can't do that And the reason we can't do that is that the firmware will not allow it. The answer to that is opening up the App Store. All right. Now, what we need to do, of course, is to find Mojave. We can't install Catalina, so let's do a search. Yeah, I forgot this was going to happen. That it's the App Store, of course, is going to okay, tell you what, I'm going to end this clip. Obviously, Apple still has Mojave available. I am simply going to have to find it, so give me a moment to do a little bit of searching here. Be right back. Alright, just to be fully transparent about this, it is on the App Store. You just have to know exactly where to look, and a quick Google search got me to it. So what I'm going to need to do is download this. We're already here. To install macOS Mojave, a firmware update is required. To complete the update, click Shutdown and wait for your Mac Pro to power off. Yeah, I'm sure you can read all of this. Yes, this is exactly the firmware update that I spoke about, and it does a number of things. One of the very important things that it does is to allow us to boot from an NVMe drive, which of course is our ultimate goal here. So I will be clicking Shutdown, which of course will automatically end this clip. Well, actually, I think probably the smart thing to do would be to end the clip and then click Shutdown. So we'll see you back on the camera for the big firmware upgrade. Stay tuned. Okay, remembering the directions, which are true of any firmware update. So focus here. The power button. Press it and hold it until that light begins to flash. There's the flash. We should hear the beep. There's the beep. And the chime. Now, in your standard firmware flash, you would be seeing the boot screen, which would change a little bit. You get a different progress meter, and it will take a while to actually boot into the firmware and get the firmware flash. You will notice, of course, I don't have any idea why, but the optical drive has ejected. That's another sign that the flash is happening. So we can be assured that even though, since we do not have a Mac flashed graphics card, the flash is happening. And I'll come back when something actually happens. Stay tuned. I'll stay with the camera for right now. We are booted back into Mojave. I should have taken the step here of going over this prior to the firmware flash, but what we see here is the boot ROM version. Okay, 144.0.0.0.0. That has changed as a result of the flash. Exactly what it was before, I forget. You can refer back to one of my earlier videos if you really are curious about that. Alright, now we have choices at this point. We can close out of the installer and simply stay with High Sierra, which to an extent is tempting. I like High Sierra. I always enjoyed the operating system. Not that there's anything wrong with Mojave, but I am going to go ahead here and install Mojave. I'm going to show all disks. We're going to install it straight onto the SSD, and what I will end up doing is when it gets set up, we will, or when we get to the process of setting it up, I'm going to have the data migrated with Migration Assistant from the existing installation of High Sierra to the new installation of Mojave. Now, the big reason for installing Mojave, to my mind, it does give another year of support. You know, Mojave will definitely be supported the rest of this year and all of next year. After that, it's hard to say. Apple doesn't say specifically. So anyhow, I won't have you sit through the entire installation and setup. I'll come back when that is all complete. So please stay tuned. We are clearly here on the Mojave desktop. It's always a little difficult with the screen recordings from Mojave and Catalina, because it seems as though I start the recording, it seems to be recording, and my voice doesn't get picked up. Well, anyhow, about this Mac Pro mid-2010. Processor is the same, still 24 gigs of memory. That Radeon RX 580 with 8 gigabytes. And importantly, to see that the startup disk is in fact the Western Digital SSD. So our firmware has worked out. Now, let's see. How about some benchmarks? I've taken the liberty of running CPU tests. Oh, good Lord. All right. Okay, so we see these are the CPU tests, as I've pointed out. They're not likely to increase, but they have actually a little bit within the range of error. I mean, you can get these things changing from time to time. All right, but the big one. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, yeah, over here. Okay, I didn't save this except as a screenshot. But we can tell this is where we were with the OpenCL score, 10,550. Check this out. Oh, come on now. no reason why that shouldn't open up. Oh well. Tell you what. I'll run it again and get back to you. Darn it. Stay tuned. Well, okay, that's done. I'm sorry about that brief delay there. Mercy. 10,550 and 135,000. That's unbelievable. That is absolutely unbelievable. And I've run it twice now. Now, of course, we can run the metal test and we get comparable results. Of course, there's no comparison because the 5770 could not even run the metal test because it's not metal supported. Alright, that'll do Geekbench. Now, of course, so there's one big upgrade. The graphics card, obviously well worth doing. Not only for the fact that we're able to be here in Mojave as a result. Alright, let's have a look at the Blackmagic disk speed test. We'll start that. 1300 in the writes. You may remember earlier we were in the 60s on the hard drive. Okay, dropped down a little bit there, but still over 10 times what we were seeing. And a little lower again on write. Okay, so anyway, it's a dramatic difference. Now, if you have a 5,1 machine, obviously the graphics card upgrade is very much worthwhile. And, you know, those RX 580s are not that expensive. I mean, I got a couple on Amazon for, I think it was 150, 160 bucks. Really not bad. Yes, if you want it Mac flashed, it will be quite a bit more expensive. There's a guy in Australia selling them on eBay for close to twice that. I did buy one, and the reason I did that was just so that I would have one Mac flashed. So if I run into a problem on any of these 5,1 Mac Pros, I can get the boot screen by swapping out the graphics cards. Alright, now I'm going to change the target drive here. I've got two Samsung T5s. This one, it has to be the golden here, is connected via USB 3. Alright, 370 right. 350 read. Interesting, read's a little lower on that run through. Yeah, we're being pretty consistent here. Let's do one more read. Yeah, okay. Okay. Alright. Now, I have another one. The black Samsung T5. That, I mean, it's a 1 terabyte drive, but they're both T5s. Speed should be the same between the 512 gigabyte and the 1 terabyte. Alright, so let's run the test on this. This is connected via USB 2. Heh, heh, heh. Just as an aside, I of course spend a great deal of time with PowerPC Macs, many of which have only USB 1.1. On those machines, USB 2 seems like heaven, but pretty astonishing. Okay, so that's Blackmagic Disk Speed Test. I'm going to do a real world. We have here a folder. These happen to be some of the earlier clips that I've done via screen recording. Get info. It's just shy of half a gigabyte. Let's try copying them onto these drives. It's already there. And so this has been about 10 seconds. Now it's not a huge file that went by pretty quickly, but clearly, I mean, it was instantaneous going to the USB 3. So, to sum up, yes, do the graphics card on one of these machines. Absolutely. It opens up a different world to these machines. Now, there are 4 PCIe slots, of course. One of them has to have the graphics card, or the computer isn't going to do you much good. The other 3, I very strongly suggest that one of those should have, you know, an NVMe adapter card. It's just a gigantic difference. Yes, you can, as I have done, you can put SATA SSDs to replace the hard drives. You do get a speed bump, but nothing like what we're seeing from that NVMe drive. Another one really has to be USB 3. Now, that Initech drive that card that I'm using has been really good for me. This is now the 3rd machine on which I have put one, and I recommend them most highly, even over some rather pricier cards. Now you might ask, well, what about USB-C? My experience, now I know people have claimed that they've done really well. I've tried on 2 previous machines with 2 different cards. On one of them, I used the Sonic card, which is, you know, supposed to be the gold standard for those things. Honestly, I was not, I mean, they worked, but I didn't get any faster speeds from USB-C than I was getting from USB 3 in the Initech. So, what's the point? But, you know, your mileage may vary, as the saying goes. So anyhow, yeah, you take the USB 3 card, the NVMe adapter, and then you've got one additional slot that you can use for whatever your individual needs are, but I really think you should do those. Okay, now I've got some setting up to do with this machine, although for the most part it's just going to go right back to folding. One application I put on, one of the nice things about having it on Mojave, I can run 32-bit apps, such as the print shop, and you know, I've got a birthday card, a very important birthday card to make, so I'm going to get to that. So I guess we will sign off the video now. Please, my friends, be good to other people. Be good to yourselves. Take good and careful care. This has been Broken Electronics, and we will be back real soon.